All right. Well, welcome everyone. This is my monthly free masterclass. And my name is Camille Miller, if you don't know who I am. And I am a business advisor. And lately, everyone's been calling me because I actually design businesses in alignment with who you are. I don't do like long-term coaching. I more do the strategy behind who you want to be in the world and how you want to bring it out there. And I assume that you're really, really good at what you do. You just need to connect with more people and let the world know about your gifts and get it out into the world. So I help you design the business plan to do that. And I've been doing this for about 9 years. Well, I actually have been doing it longer, but I've owned this brand for 9 years. I own the Soul Professional brand. There is a Soul Professional Society. If you haven't been a part of that, please join us. You can find us at soulprofessional.com, and there's a whole free side to it. And part of these free master classes are a part of it. And we have free networking. We have a free global community that's on Facebook. And then there's premium memberships where I'm holding you accountable and working on your business with you. We also have the Soul Professional Business School, which just launched. And of course, I work with people independently. So that's a little bit about me and what we do. And my mission is to bring your gifts to the world. So whatever I do and however you work with me or the communities, the golden thread is that you have gifts that have to get to the world. So I hope you get those gifts to the world. Thank you for joining me today. So today we are talking about networking authentically. For any past masterclasses, if you've missed them, we always send them out to you every month. And you can also go to the website and look up all of the ones I've ever taught. They're also on our YouTube channel, all the ones I ever taught. So if you've missed them, you can go back and find them. I actually loved the one we did on Avatar, I think was last month. Not 100% sure. Was that the last month? Even I was impressed with that one. Like, because I also teach it in the business school side, but I felt like the conversation just went in this great way of knowing your avatar. And when you know your avatar, it dovetails with everything else you do. Because if you don't know who your perfect client is, you can't find him in the world when you're networking or out there. You have no idea who that person is if you don't have a way to identify who that person is. And if you're telling me, well, I can work with anyone, I'm sure you can, but that's not what the world needs to hear. They really need to hear very specifically who you work with. And I always say I work with very logically brained, soul aligned entrepreneurs in service who want to impact the world, right? Narrows it down. I always say micro entrepreneurs because there's usually very unlikely that they hit over $1 million. I have worked with a few that have, but those are usually in my one-on-one work, right? So most people just want consistency, and that's good, right? So know what your target market is. Right. Today we're going to talk a little bit about networking. Let me see. I asked everyone to just put in the chat where you're joining us from, so I know. We have California, Canada, Costa Rica, YouTube channel. I could put the link in. It used to be NLBP, which is our parent company, .tv, but it hasn't been connecting. So obviously I have to look at what happened there. But I'll put it in the link so you know. And I would love to hear, or you can put in the chat, but you can also talk if you'd like to. Oh yeah, it does say NLBP here. What brought you here? What would you like to get out of this class today? Because when you tell me, I make sure I teach it. Yeah, Hungary, North American. Wow, we have, what, 4 countries here. Not bad for 11 people. Awesome, people. That's what I love. All right. Tell me in the chat though, or you can unmic too, and tell me what made you come to today's class. Which I'm going to spotlight myself. So you don't have to do it. Okay. Go ahead, Joan. Do you have something to say? Share with us?
Oh, I just want to say you invited me the other day. We had a one-to-one, and I'm interested in knowing more about the group. So that's why I'm here.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank
Thank you.
you. Thank you. I'm here to hear your perspective on networking and continue to grow my networking skills. Awesome, Kelly. Thank you. All right. So I feel, I don't even feel, I've experienced when I talk to so many entrepreneurs that I work with, and obviously in their community, that they go to networking events and then they don't do anything afterwards, or they continuously go to networking events and they're kind of selling their wares and all of their services. And I always say they're kind of vomiting all of the things that they can do, and they really don't have a clear way to talk about it so that people understand who they need. And they're always looking for their end client. That's where I think mostly the mistake is. Always hear that I should network, but would like the skills to now not know who would be my best fit. Yep. And networking isn't always to find your end client. I think that's what the most important thing is. There are a lot of networking groups out there, a lot of really good ones, a lot of really crappy ones. And you have to test them to find out where your people are. If you're showing up at any group at all, and you feel like you're hiding a piece of yourself, like you are not being authentic and telling them exactly who you are and showing your spiritual side and who you are, that is not your group. That is not your group because you're hiding, and that comes off when you explain who you are, right? It comes off as not being confident, and confidence is actually what makes you successful. More than anything else, it is confidence. You could be really confident and really crappy at what you do, but more people will invest in you because of your confidence. Does that make sense? You
Yes.
really want to be. How many people have invested in coaches or programs or things because they sold it to you so well that you're like, wow, they so believed it, their passion, you bought into it, and then it ended up not being what you thought. And this could be in so many areas of life, right? But you bought that person's confidence, you bought their energy. They believed it was good, and that's what you bought into. So confidence is your number one thing when you're selling anything, right? It's really knowing what you're good at, and being proud of it, what you're good at. So when you're looking for a group, you want to make sure that you work with a group of people that understand who you are and embrace all parts of you, right? So you're being honest. This is who I am. This is what I do. These are the people I help. And that's a part of it. And the other part that I mentioned is it's not always your end client. This is really important because a lot of people go to networking groups expecting to turn them over to make a sale. And if you're going in with the energy to make a sale, you're coming from this place of scarcity. You're coming from a place of, I just need to sell right now, or I'm not making enough, so I don't really care who you are, but I'm really hoping that you'll buy my stuff. And not a good feeling. You wouldn't like it if people did it to you, so don't do it to other people. Um, I think the best thing to do is when you're going in is who do I need to meet today? Not necessarily my end client, but who is the person before me or after me that can refer to people? I call them power partners. Like who could be a power partner for me that if I just understand their business, it'll help me too, right? I meet people all day long and people are referred to me all day long. It doesn't mean that any of them will become my end client, right? If they're just a soulful person, I always invite them into the free side of the community. They can come to the master classes, they can come to the free networking because they're a soulful person, right? They're one of my people. That's my like first, are you my people? Right? If you're my people, then I invite you into my world to meet more of my people, right? The end client thing comes later if they're a good match for my programs, right? Some people resonate with me. I do not do hard sales in any way. I only work with people that are a hell yes. And I know that not everyone is ready for the work that I do, right? I know that when people do the inner work, right, they've done a lot of mindset work, they've done a lot of spiritual growth, then they're usually ready to build their business. right? I used to go after those people that um were still in scarcity mode, and I realized that they're not ready to build a business because they kind of mentally can't get out of their own way, right? So I know that if I match with mindset coaches or those types of people that work with the inner work, those are good referrals for me, right? Because when they're done working with that person, that's when they're good for me. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So
Yes.
those types of coaches or consultants would be good for me. There could be people before or after you if you know that people come from a certain place. Coaches, therapists, right? A lot of people come out of therapy and then try something else. That could be you. It's trying to find out who are the people. For me, anyone that's soulful is pretty good because I don't know where my next client comes from, right? They usually find me. Almost 100% of my business is through word of mouth, right? But that's in years and years and years of networking. And for me, I started in 2020 of doing what I call 24/20 because it was 2020. I meet 20 brand new people every single month, which is about 250 new people every year. And I've been doing it for 4 years,
Hmm.
right? Now it's easy. In the beginning, it was hard to find 20 people. It really was. Now people are just introduced to me because I meet so many other people. I also take the time to introduce other people to who they need to know in their world, right? If I meet someone, be like, oh, you know who's a great match for you? Let me introduce you to this person, right? And even if it's just, they're the same type of person, or I think their energies would get along, that's worth it. Like if you want people to be introduced to you, you also have to introduce to other people. And it's more of a pay it forward. It doesn't always mean that that person is coming from the person that you introduce. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
Okay. So, when you're networking, um, when you're, um, there's a lot of different networking events out there. If you're doing those 30-second networking events, those are tough. But when I'm on a networking event, I don't care what networking event it is, I always have my LinkedIn open and I go through the screens. Some people take a screenshot so they have all the names and they do it later. I actually do it while they're doing the general talking and I look everyone up on LinkedIn and I send them a message and I say, great to meet you in, XYZ group today. I'd love to have a one-on-one and learn more about you and your business. Please send me a calendar link or some dates that work for you. And I'd love to have a chat. It's the same thing all the time. And so that way, when I go back to their LinkedIn, right, at first I connect with them. But when I go back, it tells me in that first message where I met them.
Hmm. Hmm.
Right. So I don't have to say, where did I meet this person? I have no idea. Right. It tells me where they are. They know where we met. And then I would say almost 100% of the time we set up a one-on-one. If you are not setting up one-on-ones after those networking meetings, it is useless for you to be there. Useless. You are not doing networking. You're just showing up and wasting your time for an hour, right? And just spieling out your stuff, but you're not building relationships. Sales, and we are all in sales, right? Is about building relationships. People have to know, like, and trust you, right? In our world, it's really about the energy, right? You have to feel who someone is, and you don't know on the surface how you connect. So I used to own a real estate firm, and I used to sell a lot of real estate. Um, but when I entered someone's home, I never sat down until I had a common ground. It could be anything. Could be their kids, could be sports, could be their orange couch. I don't know. Like, unless I found a common ground because I could feel their energy shift and they got comfortable, then I would sit. So networking's kind of the same way. You're looking for common ground, and you don't know what that common ground is until you start to have deeper conversations. I always ask people to tell me about you and your business. I always have them go first, right? One, it makes them feel heard. right? But for me, I want to know who they are before I tell them everything I do because they probably don't need to know everything that I do, right? I can tailor it very specifically to the person I'm talking to. And I'll give you a great example that happened to me yesterday. First, I need a cup of my coffee, though. Hold on. A great thing that happens yesterday. I joined a local chamber, and I don't usually do in person because literally all of my business is online, right? But I thought it would be neat just to actually leave my house once in a while. New thing that I'm trying. We'll see if it works out. Okay, so I was like, I went to a networking something last Friday, and everyone puts their card in a box and you pull it out and you call people. And someone immediately emails me and he's like, "Hey, I pulled your card today. You were at networking. Let's have a one-on-one." And I'm like, "Okay, great." 9 out of 10 times, this chamber really does not work for me because these are people with brick and mortar businesses and I'm different. And I, not that I haven't worked with brick and mortar, it's just really not my niche, right? I work with global businesses. And I was like, great, we'll meet, blah, blah, blah. He was an attorney and a young attorney. So already we did not have a lot in common, right? We end up talking, and he's a personal injury talk. And we just start talking. But I looked at you. You look like you do really. He's like, honestly, when I looked at your business card, I was like, I'm not talking to a freaking life coach. And I was like, I get that. I was like, what made you think I was a life coach? Because, right, that's a problem in my messaging.
Yeah.
And I said, what made you think that? Right? And on that card, because I gave him an old card, it said I was a life amplifier. But if you don't know what I do, because I do amplify lives, but if you don't know, that's how it came across to someone else, right? So I was like, okay. So I started to tell him about my work. And I said, well, I'm actually a business designer. And what I do is I help people create these businesses like their dream. But I always say, my first question is always, tell me your ultimate dreams. If money didn't matter, what would you get up and do every day? And that's literally how I start my one-on-one calls. And he was like, that's interesting. And he started to answer. And he's like, I really hate being an attorney. And I'm like, interesting. And I was like, well, then why do you do it? He's like, because it's paying the bills. He goes, I literally had this conversation with my fiance yesterday or girlfriend. I don't know what she was, but and so I said, well, most of the people I work with are creative and they have these other passions, but they don't think they can make money out of it. He's like, I'm creative. I'm like, you are? I was like, well, what's your hobby? Like, what do you do in your off time? He's like, I specialize in sports memorabilia since I was 14. I'm actually an expert. And I was like, so why didn't you go into sports law? Like, how did you end up in like, and we just started this conversation and he's like, and then he's like, by the way, he's like, we're thinking of getting married and having kids and she's in finance and we don't know how do we continue this lifestyle, right? And I was like, well, there's plenty of things that she can do. Like that was another thing. Well, why doesn't she become a fractional CFO? We can create an entire business that way, that she works on her terms all over the world, helping small businesses, right? And we just kept the conversation going. And he was so intrigued that he kept asking. And, in the end, I'll probably end up with 2 clients. Right. And he said at the end, he goes, I had no idea this was going here. And I was like, I didn't either. But you know what? I showed up.
Mm-hmm.
I showed up and asked. And I also gave him an example of another attorney I worked with. And I said, oh, well, for instance, the type of people I work with, I worked with another attorney that did business law and real estate. And but her degree was actually environmental science, and we switched over and we got her to leave the firm and start her own firm. And now she works on organic beer breweries, hop farms for beer breweries. And she is the leading attorney in the state of New Jersey for beer breweries. Right. And that's why he got it. And he's like, I got it. She's still doing her expertise. You see the difference? So the thing is, you don't know where conversations will lead you, right? But if you let the other person talk first, you don't say, this is how I can help you, or this is what I would do for you, right? Because they didn't ask you. But you can just be a kind individual and get them thinking in that direction or ask really good questions, right? Those things that make you go, right? Or you might connect in music or concerts or kids or so many other things, right? But if you already say this person's not my person, you don't know who that person knows. You don't know who that person knows. You don't know how you'll connect. And my guess is this person will end up introducing me to a lot of people. And I actually, because I'm a professor at a university, and I work with their sports management division, and the chair is an ex-attorney. And I said, let me make that introduction for you because I don't know how he did it, but why don't I make that introduction? You have that conversation, right? That makes me look good, right? Makes me look good, makes me feel good, right? I don't know if that person will ever become an end client, but that was all from a networking of I'm thinking, what do I need a personal attorney for? Personal injury attorney, right? But that wasn't our connection in the world. Does that make sense? So it's all in the follow up. If you do not have a follow up plan, you're really missing the boat in networking. So for me, like I said earlier, I talk to 20 people every month. 20 people every month. And I know by talking to 20 people every month, I don't have to worry about my money flow, right? Because eventually more people get introduced to me and they go through my funnel and the right people show up and work with me, right? So if I'm always working on meeting people and putting myself out there and being authentic and doing free things like this, the right people find me, right? I know a lot of people have been caught in coaching situations that don't feel good, or they've been pressured to buy things, right? So that's why I do a lot of this free stuff. So people get to see this is who I am, this is who I believe in, this is how I do things, right? If it's not for you, then you're not my client, right? But here you get to test everything I do. So it's nice if you guys have that too. I always tell my clients, have something that they can see your work, right? So if they're thinking about it, you have somewhere to say, come here, come to my networking, come to my free class, come to something as an invite, right? And just allow them to be more. I'm just going to look at this chat real quick because I see it going by. I'm here to start more networking, and it's out of my comfort zone. I'll do one at a time. So I'm an introvert. I know a lot of people don't think so, but I am a horrible introvert, by the way. And I feel very comfortable behind a screen. But you can't catch me dead going outside. I'm actually working with a coach to get me to go outside. And I don't mean like I go outside, I go to the gym, I do stuff in life, but I am not comfortable doing things on my own. I always need someone with me. But sometimes there's like really cool things that I would miss out on because I don't have someone to go with me, right? So I'm working on that. So networking in person, and that's one of the reasons I joined the chamber, is a struggle for me, a big struggle for me. Networking online, not a struggle for me, not a struggle for me at all, right? But walking into a room full of people is a struggle for me. It's out of my comfort zone. So I do little things to make it a little bit better. And it was always, if I can meet one person, I'm good. And I can leave after that, right? But then it's the next time I know one person, and they'll usually introduce me to the second person. Or I'll say, can you introduce me to one person, right? It's human nature to help each other. So if you ask, can you introduce me to someone? They'll introduce you to someone. I also, if you've been to our own networking, Bo, I think you have, that's why I put people into small groups and pose the question so they don't have to come up with something. So I really set up introverted networking on purpose because that's who I attract, right? I attract very logically brained, soul-led entrepreneurs. That's who I attract. That's who I am, right? So I'm uncomfortable in big rooms. So I run one that's small. So you would have to find one that's comfortable for you, right? And if you find one that poses questions and something like that, that might be easier, right? And then going to a one-on-one is easier for me. So that's what I do, like go to a one-on-one from there, right? Sometimes it's really easy just to do the chat and ask people that you're meeting. Trying to feed myself inspiration and startup tools to start putting my ideas into form and get it out into the world. Yeah. So actually, Felicia, I'm going to read through all of these and then we're going to talk about how we talk about ourselves because that's the really, really important part. In fact, in my school today that we teach, today is practice day. We are starting to practice everything that we've done and wrote and all of our messaging. So how are we putting it out there? That's smart. I need to update my LinkedIn. Yeah. I think LinkedIn is I'm sorry, I'm so blurry. I don't know why I'm blurry. My thing keeps auto focusing. I think LinkedIn is the most important thing out there. I think it's more important than your website right now. When people Google you, LinkedIn comes up before your website. When I go to work with person or I like meet someone, if you don't have a LinkedIn, you're never hearing from me because I know you're not my person, right? Because I work with professionals. If you don't have a LinkedIn, I don't think of you as professional. And there's a lot of people like me. So if you're working in the professional world or you're working with more high-end clients and you don't have a LinkedIn, it's not going to work out so well for you. That's my personal feeling. I think LinkedIn is the most important thing out there right now. And there are a lot of great LinkedIn experts. And I can introduce you to some LinkedIn experts if you need them. Tips, reach out during the networking event, message them while on the call. Absolutely. And say, nice to meet you. Invite them to connect. Set up one-on-ones, let them go first, find common ground. Yes, awesome. You can set it up right there. I always go to their LinkedIn and set it up because then I have it. I love that you're just writing notes everywhere. This is great. It's all the flow up. I need to get on this part. I haven't been there. Okay. How often do you suggest following up? Once a month. So I always depends why you're following up, right? If you've met someone that and they're brand new, follow up right away for that one-on-one, right? If that person's not your person or you don't have common ground, then you don't need to ever follow up, right? If you think that that person's a person, that's why I said it's nice to send them somewhere instead of constantly following up with them. It's easier to see if they show up in your stuff, right? I have people that I do follow up on, but for me, it's where are you showing up otherwise, right? Because very rarely it has actually happened that people have just called and become clients and I have no idea who they are. It does happen, but it's not like how it usually happens. They usually show up at my master classes or they show up in networking. Usually then they come to master classes and people at master classes usually contact me for more work, right? Because they're working with me constantly. That's the way it usually works for me. So if you have a place to send them, then it's worth it. But if everyone has different follow-up funnels, it depends on your follow-up funnel, which we can talk a little bit about. They could go on an email list. They could pick something that's, like a free giveaway. It depends what you have set up in your business as part of your funnel. That's all a funnel, by the way. Funnels don't have to be, triggers. I find soulful people don't really fall into funnels. It's more the personal touch. But people need a lot of personal touches not being sold to all the time. They need the personal touch. They need to know that you have a heart. And I think that's the most important. So depending on what you're doing, it could be once a month. If they're on an email list, it could be once a week. It kind of depends. Kind of depends what the overall, what you're trying to achieve. Totally done is dancing. I can't do that either. Highly recommend those events. Sorry, I missed it this week. I love the way you do the question prompts in the small group. Yep. Thank you, Amy. I tune out in large groups too. So that's very, very common. All right. Any either questions, thoughts, comments before I keep going? Anyone have anything to add? Has this been helpful?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you understand? Yeah. Okay. All right. So next I want to talk about how are you introducing yourself? Right? So when people say you have them go first and then it's your turn. If you are spewing out every service and every accreditation you have, that is way too much information. Most people can only handle very small pieces of information. So if you start with a question, like you've just heard about them, you have to be pretty good at on the fly, but if you've practiced a lot, you're pretty good, right? I know who I am. I've known who I worked with. So usually after I hear somebody, I can ask a question right away. And some of the questions I ask right away is like, where are your clients coming from? How are you meeting people? So I know if they have a funnel or a strategy right away, right? Most people do not. They have no idea where their business is coming from, right? I'm a strategist. That's why I asked. But when you're introducing yourself, um, you can say who you are, what you do, but I would keep it really, really, really like I can say like I'm a business advisor. I might show it. I might start using designer. I test things a lot, by the way. I test it all the time. And someone taught me that if it comes out so naturally and authentically, that's actually who you are. Right? When it's really easy, if you have to practice it all the time, that's not you. That's not you. So you want to say really easily, then go into like my ideal client is, right? I say logically brained, soul-led micro entrepreneurs that want to make an impact in the world. They usually come from a very structured environment, right? Doctors, lawyers, CPAs, therapists, coaches, but they know they're meant for bigger things, right? And that usually and people go, huh, I think that's me. And then I go out, clients come to me when, right? They know they're meant for bigger things. I could put that there too. After they've worked with other coaches and didn't get results, after they've done the inner work. And I always say they're also been highly successful in another area of their life because I find that that's a very common thread with my people. They've been highly successful in some area of their life. It doesn't matter, but they can tap into what success feels like for them, right? So you want to say, clients come to me when, and answer that. And ways that people can work with me are, I always say, through the Soul Professional Society, which is free or paid membership for my masterminds, one-on-one, or through the Soul Professional School, right? So if you have 10 programs, you have way too many, right? But you should be able to give 3 examples of ways most people work with you, right? Low end, middle, high, right? Low end is my membership, free, that's pretty low, right? Actually, the school is second, and then it's high end, but I do it the other way around. And that gives you and take a breath in between, and then allow them to ask questions, right? Or if they say, I don't understand, and you could say, for example, my last client was, or, to tell a client's story. If you were at networking with me on Tuesday, I used that because I'm teaching it in the school right now. So I was like, let me see if people can do it, right? How do you tell a client's story? You should be able to pick something out of your bag of saying, for instance, I just worked with, so when I was talking to the attorney, I said, for instance, I've worked with this attorney, right? So because he can immediately understand it and went through that scenario, right? You can say, oh, for instance, I've worked with a mother. If you're talking to a mother, or that's what they brought up first, you can say, right? and then you can talk about your clients. So it depends how much time you have. But if you're in a smaller group or they're matching you one-on-one or something like that, or this is just a one-on-one call, then you have 5 or 10 minutes. Take your time, go through it, pause for questions. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
All right, I want to read some of these. Okay. Amy, now I see you're just taking notes on me, which is very nice. All right. I want to open it up just to answer some questions for people in case I'm not answering everything. When you are networking, what is not working for you? Or where are you getting stuck that we can talk about? Is it your introduction? Is it you just don't know what to do? Is it the follow-up you're leaving and you're not doing anything with those people? Go ahead, Kelly.
I was going to say, just to, you know, compliment everything you've said so far. I really spent this whole summer making new connections. So I love that you gave that number of 20 because I think I've done a little bit more than that over the course of the summer. So I feel great about that. I think where I want to make sure I'm making good decisions going forward is I now have a variety of contacts, many of whom I connected with other people. And I think I need a little bit more work on who to follow up with, when to follow up, and how to create a system that makes it easier for me to be able to recall what we spoke about, because I don't want my next conversation with them to be like, remind me why we talked.
Yeah.
That would
Yeah.
be
No,
like
I
my
totally
like
get
worst
that.
case scenario.
Yeah. So, great questions, by the way. Thank you, Kelly. First, I'd say you could keep notes any way you want. I am very visual. So I literally keep a handwritten list. You could say May, March of everyone I talk to, and they all have these like little, oh, you can see like some have stars, some have highlights. Those are all code for me, right? Who are my people? You get a star. If you could potentially work with me or I see a gap in you, I give you another symbol. Doesn't mean that you know it, right? Doesn't mean you're ready to work for me. But if I know you are an ideal client or you are really like when I asked you questions, you had a gap, those go kind of on a different mental follow-up for me. Because then I'm going to watch, do you show up at things, right? Are you actually working on yourself, right? When they highlight, those are people that, you know, have invested in something or became a member or something. So you can do that any way possible. I also have a client that uses Trello boards and moves the person into buckets, right? That's a great way. Before they had, you know, computer systems and CRMs, when I was in real estate, I used to just do it by folders. Like everyone got a loose leaf piece of paper and all of my notes, the person's name was on the top and all of my notes and dates were in there. And I'll show you this because I have kept this. This is a package. This is ridiculous. But I have this package. I still keep notes. You see the dates?
Mhm.
I still keep notes this way for all of my meetings and all of my masterminds. I can tell you where you were in 2000 and I can just flip. Actually, I just flipped and it was 2017. I can tell you who showed up at the meeting, the time, and what all their goals were, where they were falling short. This is how I keep my meetings. I always have. All of my mastermind stuff is like this because this is the way I did it before computers. That's what works for me. You can also do it individually. You can do it all on a Word document. And if you had all of your contacts in literally one Word document, Word or Google, whatever you want, it is completely searchable. So if you said, oh, you know, last month I talked to, I don't know, a minister or a clairvoyant or whatever, and I need to talk to her today, you can literally just put in the word like clairvoyant and see who came out, right? So there are very easy ways to keep notes. You must keep notes, right? You must keep notes because there is nothing worse, and I've done it, than being on a call with someone and you know you've talked to them before and you can't find notes. You can't figure out who they are. I've done it. Right. So I have a very besides all of these notes, I have a very intricate CRM since I've started this business. And every single note that I've ever have on you, every conversation I've ever had, anything you've ever shown up for is in your file. Everything. So I can see when you came in contact with us, who introduced us, every conversation we've ever had, where you are in your business. So a lot of times I can come back and say, hey, the last time we spoke, this is where you were. Right. And I have like these little lists, although I have stickies all over the place, but it's amazing how I'm actually very organized. I just do it differently, and that's okay because we all have our own way, right? I have sticky notes of like, these are potential one-on-one clients. These are potential school clients. These are potential, like, and I just have notes, and those are the people I follow up with, right? But if they're not ready, they're not ready, and that's okay. Bo.
So you do everything on paper, like all those intricate notes, like how do you've nothing automated in that?
No, so I do have a CRM system where I keep personal notes on all, so everybody.
Okay.
So I can look up you. I know how you came in. I know how you're introduced to us. I know every event you've ever been to. I have a very expensive system that runs the whole organization. But those are actually for my masterminds that I teach in my, that I have in my membership. Because at the end of every year, I go back and tell people where they were so they can remember how they grew over the year, right? I've just always done it that way, so that's how I do it. Now, my system does have a way for me to do all of it. I just don't. Like, I like writing when I talk to people. And it's not like it's that big. It's not like 20 people are showing up that I'm keeping notes on, right? My personal clients, I kind of do both. Like a lot of their notes are in my system. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And I'm asking because that pile with the clip on top is what my desk looks like too. And so I was there. So when do you because
all of that is in one folder.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. And honestly, I have 4 or 5 masterminds. They're just all clipped in here. This is a mastermind folder. I keep it all the same way. I keep it right here on my desk.
Yeah.
So to me, but I also do, Felicia, I see your hand. I also have these like little notebooks and these, cause I do everything by hand, right? But I have these all over the place. Wait, there's another one. It's over there. Like this is for my assistant. Every meeting that I have since she's worked for me is in here. Right. And then I have like little checks. I check off. Did she do it? Right. These are all running projects. I have a blue one for my marketing and my marketing team. Right. All of my school notes are right here. Right. As I write classes, I do them all on these pads because I like sitting in a chair and just brainstorming and figuring it all out. You actually think differently when you use a pen.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yep. So you should not stop using pen and paper. Right. So, I have a billion of these too. They're all different subject based. But because that's what works for me. You have to do what works for you, and it's all okay. I do not have an electronic calendar. There have been numerous people trying to get me on an electronic calendar. It will never happen. And that's why I always ask for your calendar link, right? Because I never allow anyone to touch my calendar. 1, because I'm visual, but 2, because I need space between certain people. And I'm the only one that knows that because I can read the energy, right? Make sense? Felicia, go ahead. You're muted right now.
Yeah. Sorry, I was waiting for you.
No problem.
Sorry. So I really relate to the pen to paper thing and I am enthused.
Wait, I'm having trouble hearing you. Can you just talk a little bit louder?
Yeah.
Or turn up the volume.
Or just, is that any better?
Not really, but I can hear you.
Okay. I was just wondering, does that mean at the end of this meeting, you stop and write down all the individuals that are here? How is
No.
that information getting noted for you?
No. So you guys register, so I know that you registered, but I don't actually write it. If someone stands out or asks a lot of questions, or if I didn't recognize one of your names, then I write it down. Right? I'm looking at all of you. I pretty much, wait, I'll look. Yeah, I know every single one of you here. So, but if there was a name that I didn't know, I absolutely write it down. I go find them and then I write to them too and say like, hey, I don't know you from my community. Would you like to jump on a one-on-one? And how did you find me?
But how do you track the fact that each of us were here as you were talking to
I
know
don't.
what all we attended?
I don't.
Oh, I thought
It
that's
doesn't
what
matter.
you said.
Yeah.
I thought that's what you said.
So in my paid memberships, I keep a note of everything. Everybody that shows up, every conversation, but in this free stuff, I don't. But if you were to call me and we had a one-on-one, I'll pull up your file and I know everything that you registered for. I don't actually know if you showed up though, because I don't keep that. That's a little too detailed for me.
Okay.
Right? Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Gabby?
Yes. Hi, Camille. So thank you
Yeah.
for the masterclass. I loved it very much as well. And I wanted to ask about, so I also have an email list where, so how would you do it in the one-to-ones? Would you ask them whether they want to be added to the mailing list or you just add them immediately? How would you do it?
Okay, so you are not allowed, it is literally illegal to add anyone to your email list without permission, right? So
Well,
just
other
because you
people
had
are
a
doing
one-on,
to me all the
yes,
I mean, other people are doing to me all the time. So this is
I
what
know. They do it to me too, and I can't stand it. And I usually delete it, right? Or unsubscribe immediately. And I really can't stand when people have you, like when you sign up for the one-on-one, it's mandatory that you also sign up for their email list. Usually I'll have the conversation and then when it comes through, I just unsubscribe. I unsubscribe a lot. But you should not add someone without their permission. You can say, hey, can I send you my free whatever? It will add you to my list. And if they say yes, then you can add them to your list, right? I always say, hey, come to networking, or can I sign you up for networking? Or do you want to come to a master class? As soon as they do that, that registers them on my email list, right? As a student. So, but you have
Yeah,
to
so
have
I don't have
permission.
a networking, but I do have the master classes, so I can like maybe ask in the beginning whether they want to attend if they seem to be interested, and that would be a good way, right? Okay.
Yeah, so it's
Thank you.
reasonable if they're at an event that's part of your business and they've signed up that makes them part of it, but not for a one-on-one or something that, because people don't want to be on your list just because they spoke to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Joan?
Yes, I love what you said, Camille, about the calendar thing for them to give you their calendar. Energetically, that's so different. And I agree that then you have your time that you're choosing to put into what's working for you. That's really important.
Yeah, managing your time and energy is really, really important in your business. And I have days where I do certain things, right? On Mondays, I only speak to clients I already know or my members or people, in my network already. I don't meet new people on Mondays. I just don't have the bandwidth for it on a Monday, right? But Tuesday through Thursday, I'll meet new people. Thursday is usually a teaching day for me. I do this, I teach my schools on Thursdays, but I chunk my time. So if I'm meeting a lot of new people, I'll do it all together. I schedule everything for 90 minutes. So even if I only talk to them for a half hour, I have a break between everyone. So everything I do is 90 minutes apart because otherwise it's too much for me. I can't just do person after person after person. I can't do it. I don't have it in me. Nor do I want to. Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions? Do you feel like you understand networking a little bit better? That it's not just showing up and saying your spiel and seeing who's going to buy your stuff? Networking is really it's like a dance, right? A lot of times it's like dating, really. Sales is like dating, right? You don't actually sell the whole product in one time, right? You're interviewing each other, you're talking about it. Does it feel good? Do I really want to spend time with this person? That kind of thing, right? Before maybe you're having a coffee and then you have dinner and then you have the overnight and then like it goes this way, right? And networking is exactly the same way. And sometimes you have to show up a lot in the same networking group. Actually, I recommend you show up a lot in the groups that work for you so people get to know you. So you're matched with different people every time, right? If you just show up once or twice and say, well, this group's not working for me, it's different if they're not your people. That's a whole nother thing, right? But if they are your people, then you got to keep showing up, right? You don't always look for the quick sale. You're looking for building the relationship. Thank you, Amy. How I schedule my time. Yeah, I chunk it. Yeah, I'm just writing all this stuff. How long are your one-on-one calls usually? 30 minutes? No, I schedule an hour and a half between all of my calls. Even if someone else's calendar put me down for 30 minutes, because I will say it is almost never do I wrap up in 30 minutes. I want to give that person all of my time and space. And I can't tell you, like, so many times I'm on the phone with somebody and we hit the 30 minutes and they apologize because they have to get off to another call, right? And then you never build up that momentum again. Many times I just let it go. I'm just like, it's okay, I got time, right? If they don't have another call, I have time for you. Let's just keep talking, right? So I actually, and I don't want a whole day of call, right? To hit my 20, I only need 5 new people a week, right? So I don't need to do that, right? Did someone else have I thought someone else had their hand up once they put it down. This also makes it easy to refer others to like-minded groups. Yep. Love that you scheduled 90 minutes. Yep. All right. I know we're coming up on the hour. I do want to invite all of you guys to my Soul Professional Business School open house, which is next week. I'm going to put that link in the chat. That's all about the school. We are having an open house, which is just talking about the school itself and some of the programs that are coming and the future of the school. It is a no pressure thing. It is not a high sell anything, but I do want to get out there. So if it's not for you, maybe it's for someone that you know, what we're trying to do in the world. It is actually a business education is the same thing I teach at a university level, but it was all made for soul-aligned micro entrepreneurs in service because there are no education programs that are for service entrepreneurs. And I think that's where the future is going. And people need to understand cash flow and financial statements and mission statements and branding and messaging and client funnels and all of the stuff that I talk about is all taught in the school in one semester. It's a 16-week semester. And I work with you individually. So it's all applied to you and your business. So you're coming out with a full scale business plan. It is what I do with my high-end clients. We just made it into a business accelerator program. So if you'd like to learn more about that and the school, and there are some other programs that are coming up, and we will start to bring in other faculty that are specialized. They have to be higher ed college level professors to teach in this school. This is an actual school. We will be going for accreditation. There is not one like it in the world. So it is brand new, but I've been talking to a lot of really amazing global educators all over the world that are kind of tired with the way school is going. But I do think that entrepreneurs need a business education to really be successful in business and be able to apply it to their business and who they are. So this is some of the things that we teach in the school because they're real life, they're authentic. This is what's happening in the world. So if you can join me, it is next Thursday at 9:30. It will be recorded, but it's always better if you're there so you can ask questions and learn more.
Great.
So thank you guys for coming today and spending this time with me. I really appreciate you and all you do in the world with your gifts.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Joan. Thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of your day.